Live from Nashville, Tennessee, it's the Three. With the Studio C Band. And here's your host, Laura Harris-Smith.
How are you guys? Welcome to the Three. I'm Laura Harris-Smith. This is the only television show that looks at how the crazy current events shaping our world are shaping you, body, mind, and spirit. You are going to love the topic of today's show. CBS has done a study. You know they do that all the time. Well, they took a poll and they asked Americans a simple question. Do you believe in miracles? Okay. Nearly 4 out of 5 said, yes, I believe in miracles. Well, the exact numbers were 78% yes and 19% no. So, okay, wait a minute. 78 and 19, that's 97%, right? I'm always worried about that other little group of people. They don't know what they think. What is that, 3%? They're like I don't know, those folks. Okay, so you need to know. You need to know what you think about miracles, because once you need one, right, you got to know what you believe, and you don't need to waste all kinds of time trying to figure out what to do next. Well, the study went on to say that the majority of those people say that while they believe in miracles, they've never actually seen one. Now, I think that's really interesting, because that means seeing isn't believing. Well, not to those 78% of the people anyway. They believe, but do not see. I think that's called faith, right? Wouldn't you agree? And the poll went on to say that of those 78% that believe in miracles, 19 of those aren't even believers. I think there's something subconscious inside of all of us that knows we need help. The kind of help that defies the laws of nature and really all logic. But the next question in the CBS poll was, have you ever seen a miracle? And so even though you've got all these Americans who believe in miracles, 63% say they have never seen one. So I guess it's true, blessed are those who don't see but still believe. However, more than a third of the general population of Americans, 35%, say they have seen a miracle. Now that number jumps to 59% in what they call extremely religious group. I don't even know what that means. What is it? I don't know what extremely religious is. Anyway, okay. So 87%, now they think that personal prayer or like other spiritual or religious practices can actually help people get well medically. But far fewer actually believe in miracle healers, people that have the ability to heal someone, you know, with a touch, the laying on of hands. Only 1/3 of Americans even believe in that. A clear majority, 61%, they don't even feel it's legit. So you remember that extremely religious group? Well, believe it or not, they also tend to reject believing in healers. Isn't that interesting? I knew I didn't like that religious group, but anyway. So you've got these two diverse groups of people, all right? Yet 1/4 say they have been cured of an illness as a result of prayer. So you have these people, they're not really sure what they believe, but 1/3 say, it's happened to me. I've had it happen. So I certainly have many times, and I'll tell you one story later on just how. But my guests today have a lot to say about miracles, and one is even a medical doctor. But my first guest is going to challenge you to live fearlessly, to take risks and choose a life of faith. Yes, even a life of believing in miracles. He has seen them. He himself has been amazed as they've flowed through him on street corners and at altars and every place in between. So please welcome, if you will, the author of 1,000 Risks, Fighting Fear for an Awkward, Awesome Life with Jesus, Chad Johnson. Chad, I'm so thankful that you're here. I didn't even know, we didn't know each other 2 days ago, you know,
true.
and you came recommended by my marketing director at Baker, Sean Tabbitt. He said, you got to have Chad on. And your story is so remarkable. I got on your website. What's the website?
ChadIsLiving.com.
ChadIsLiving.com. And I just watched video after video after video, just watching
thank
you
you.
in action, you know, and just seeing the things that the Lord has used you to do. So first, tell me a little bit about your ministry before I jump into a question.
Yeah, no, that's good. So essentially, about 5 years ago, I had a coffee conversation with my wife where I presented her with this idea, and I was like, honey, what if I prayed for every sick person that I came across for 1 year, and then kind of evaluated what I saw or experienced God do? And she said, well, that's cool, but what about everybody who isn't obviously sick or hurting? Then what about them? And I was like, oh, she's right, what about them? And she said, what if you just took 1,000 risks and then documented the highs and lows of your experience? And so as soon as she said that, it's like all the light bulbs went off. And so my ministry has really just been, how do I learn to love others as I'm learning to love myself way more like Jesus in the day-to-day, and not just like, okay, I'm going to go on a missions trip, and on the missions trip it's going to be great. It's, what do I do about Nashville, right here where I live? And so just learning to love neighbors as I love Jesus.
And so that is really, that's the basis for your book, 1,000 Risks.
Yeah, it is.
So how long has it been out now?
A little over a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
You getting good responses on it?
Yeah, it's been like shocking. Like my mind is like, what in the world? Like, Jesus, you're way too good.
Yeah. Well, you have a really similar story as my husband. So you were in the music industry.
Yeah, that's right.
So tell us what you did.
Yeah, so I was a A&R guy.
So was my husband.
Yeah, artist. I thought, you know, I was like, what? I didn't even know what A&R meant. So to me, it was airplanes and a whole lot of restaurants.
Okay.
But
well, actually, that does work.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, that's basically what it was. But my job was to find, sign, develop bands, as you know. And so in sort of at the top of that mountain peak, I felt like Jesus said, there's more. And if you're willing to come after me, I'm going to show you more. And so at that point, I had no idea that Jesus would use me, of all people, to approach someone out in public, or just to learn to love on someone a little more. And so I essentially left the whole thing and just had the most insane, absurd, crazy experience of what that looks like. You know, the nice career, salary, all the bells and whistles to nothing. And like, Beth and kids, Jesus is going to provide. He's like,
I totally
understand. Really good. I think.
We jumped off of that mountain, and we went from 6 digits to nothing overnight. Wow. And we had 5 kids, and we had a 6th one during the free fall. So I mean, it was a long 7 years of, we call it the rice and beans, beans and rice and beans years. But I marveled at your story, because I've really never met anybody else who did that in that industry. Yeah. And he was even in a Christian industry, you know? And so,
I was too.
Okay, so then it's like you leave the Christian industry to go into ministry. It's sad that they're different, but tell me about something that you've seen happen. I know you go, you take risks, you go out on the street and pray for people. Give me one example.
Yeah, it's when you asked me that earlier, I was like, oh, what's the one? And there's so many, but I think the one that stands out is I was sipping coffee in Birmingham, Alabama with my family and some friends of ours, and I noticed this African-American lady with her, what turns out to be her daughter, walking hand in hand with her, and the mother had a walking stick with the little tennis ball at the bottom of it, the blind glasses on, and was just, you know, kind of doing this and being walked along with her sister, or her daughter. And in that process, I just was like, to my friend, let's just go offer to pray. Because the only thing I know to do is offer. I can't, I feel like obedience is ours and results are God's. Like, I can't make it happen. I can't heal someone, but maybe I can love them a little better and a little more like Jesus. And so I said, let's just go offer. And so we did. And in the offer, I prayed for her, and just, you know, eyes be healed, vision be restored. And everything in me was like, do not ask what's going on right now. Like, you succeeded, way to go. Like, don't say anything else. And in that moment, thankfully, Jesus won. And I asked her, what are you experiencing anything happening with your eyes? And she said, it's really strange that you ask. And anytime a person says it's really strange,
there's something I'm
like, and she said, well, I'm beginning there's less blurriness. And she, in the end, was completely healed. And so we ended up having crazy prophetic words over her and her daughter, and just this amazing moment.
And that's what it gets to, is that there's a moment of entry where he does something beautiful for them they need practically. And then he wants to say, hey, I want to have a life with you, you know, and it's that relationship. It's not religion, it's a relationship. Okay, stay put, because we're going to go to another segment that I'm going to bring you back on in just a moment. We'll be right back in just a minute, everybody. Don't go anywhere. Hi everybody, thanks for watching The3. But you know, it dawned on me that I really need to officially introduce myself to many of you, even though I've been in television for 50 years. My parents put me in my first commercial at age 3, and that path carried me all the way to the Shop at Home TV network where I was a host. I'm a wife of 34 years to Chris, a mom to 6 adult children, and a grandmother to 8 so far. I'm an author of, goodness, over 20 books and ebooks, and whatever I write, you can count on the fact that it will help you physically, emotionally, and spiritually because my passion is body, mind, and spirit health. I'm a certified nutritionist with a degree in original medicine. And my husband and I pastor a phenomenal church in Nashville called Eastgate Creative Christian Fellowship, where we help people get healthy body, mind, and spirit. So if you're ever in the Nashville area, I hope you'll stop in and say hi. You know, God had a son, but what he wanted was a family. So he sent Jesus to come and get us. Likewise, I had a TV career, but what I really want is a TV family. As you can tell by now, I have always had one foot in media and one foot in ministry, and it's all collided now on The3. So please become a part of The3's family. Visit the link on your screen to give a tax-deductible gift and help me purchase airtime that takes this fun, relevant, faith-based show to a faithless world. Some TV ministries would then call you a donor or a partner, but I'm going to call you family. Go to the link and become a part of my TV family today. I can't do it without you. Thanks. Hi everybody. You know, I'm very sympathetic to people struggling with chronic sicknesses, especially neurological issues, because as a young girl, I was diagnosed with epilepsy, and I used to have a constant electrical storm in my brain which would cause horrible convulsions. Well, those decades of suffering, combined now with my degree in nutrition and my growing respect for essential oils and the amazing healing properties God put in them on the third day of creation, compelled me to create my very own oil blend called Quiet Brain. Quiet Brain is different than any blend I've ever seen because it's comprised of oils whose special composition is sesquiterpenoids, and they can cross the blood-brain barrier, which not all neurological medicines and not even all essential oils can do. But Quiet Brain's 8 ingredients, frankincense, myrrh, sandalwood, lavender, and more, do. Our case study resulted in testimonies of considerable relief, elimination, at the very least support for PTSD, insomnia, migraines, stress, anxiety, seizures, and more. These aren't medical claims. Everybody's body varies, and so your results will vary. But they are testimonies that cannot be argued with. So go to quietbrainoil.com for our patent-pending oil. It comes in a roller bottle, a dropper bottle, which is great for diffusing, and there you'll also find our nasal inhalers, candles, shampoo and conditioner, and even our gift box with all the products, plus a diffuser. And download the free ebook while there to understand the science behind Quiet Brain. Again, that's quietbrainoil.com. Hi everybody, welcome back. I'm Laura Harris-Smith. In 2015, I went to Denver, Colorado. And I was just there on a ministry trip, and a driver pulls up, and he's going to be my escort, you know, for the week. And the gentleman that picked me up was the one you're about to meet. And I thought, he's my driver, maybe this is what he does for a living. No, he was a doctor with a servant's heart. And he is a physician of medical rehabilitation. He is the doctor of hopeless cases because he sees people with spinal cord injuries. Would you please welcome a wonderful man? His name is Dr. Ken Parsons. Well, we just keep getting all kinds of things together since that time, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah, that was impressive to me. We spend the whole, 2-3 days together, and then he tells me he's a doctor. You definitely were the doctor of hopeless cases. I want you to just tell me a little bit about what you did.
For 30 years, I took care of people with spinal cord injury. And spinal cord injuries are more often than not permanent paralysis. Fortunately, that's not 100% true. But that's where God put me, in the field. I was, at one point in my education, I was willing to go be a general practitioner and work in an inner city clinic in Houston, Texas. And he said, no, stay where you are and do physical medicine. So that's what I did for 30 years.
Wow. So one of the stories that fascinated me was that I was there at Marilyn Hickey's church to tape with her for her show, and you start telling me about how you worked with Dodie Osteen.
Yes.
And that you all would go in hospitals together, and you would
Yes.
pray for people. Tell me about that.
Yes.
You all know Joel Osteen. This is his mom, Dodie. So, go ahead.
Yeah, Dodie had a ministry, Tuesday noon ministry at Memorial Hermann Hospital in the Texas Medical Center. And we would, often we would have music and teaching, and then we'd invite people to come up for prayer. And so I called Dodie my mentor in the prayer ministry. She taught me how to pray.
Wow.
And wonderfully so. But she used to tease me. She said, "Ken, you pray like a doctor and then I'll pray." Like we're covering two bases or
Okay,
something.
no, I understand that. I understand that. I have in the circles in which I walk, because I'm a nutritionist, but because I'm a woman of faith as well and of great conviction, and I believe that God can supernaturally heal bodies, and I've seen Him do it. I go into these nutrition camps and they're like, "Oh, you're being all works-based and this has nothing to do with faith in God." And then I go into the spirit-filled camps and they're like, "Oh, you shouldn't be, all the nutrition and stuff. God can heal everything by you. You don't need any help." I love what you do because you combine the two of them. You are a medical doctor. You have seen some hopeless cases. Tell me about an instance where God broke through.
Yeah, well, there have been a lot of them, and we don't have time for all of them. But one that came to mind when you asked me that question earlier was one that happened in my own family. I was on a mission trip in Ethiopia. When I came home, my wife was developing flesh-eating disease, which is often fatal.
Yes.
Sometimes as high as 70%, usually associated with large non-healing wounds that require repeated surgeries and skin grafts and all that sort of thing. So when I recognized what was going on, I got her to the hospital, and a lesson that I had learned from a brother in Christ back in Houston was that when you're going to have surgery, you pray over the surgeon's hands. He told me the story. It was so funny. He said to this thoracic surgeon who was going to do his bypass, he said, "Can I pray over your hands?" "Why do you want to do that?" "Because your hands are going to be in my chest. That's why." So when the surgeon came in to take my wife to the operating room, I said, "Can I pray for you and with you?" And he said, "Sure." So his expectation was that we were going to end up with a chronic wound situation and 2 years of recovery and so on and so on. When he came out of the operating room, he was amazed, because as he was doing what surgeons do in that condition, the skin, instead of getting pale and dying, the skin was getting pinker.
Wow.
Blood circulation was improving. And in fact, 9 days later, she was out of the hospital. 6 weeks later, she ran a half marathon, and she was rapidly back to normal. We checked with the surgeon and the infectious disease doctor, and both of them agreed it had been a miracle.
Wow.
Now, I call that full gospel medicine. The best that science has to offer, and then God's blessing on top of it. And I encourage people who are looking at having surgery, or they're going through a diagnostic workup or whatever, pray for your doctors.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And so that God can bless them with insight into what you need, or skill for what you need.
Yes, because sometimes the Lord will allow us to go down that road.
Yes.
And we need someone. Doctors are His errand boys.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you know, and so, well, I love that, and I love how you described to me how you would go into the hospitals and you would pray for people. And give me a quick story there. We've literally got 30 seconds. What's something that happened there in the hospital with this, just a stranger maybe, that you prayed for?
After Katrina, a young mother and her 2-year-old son had to come to Houston, and the boy had had 2 previous liver transplants. He was only 2 years old. While his life was being disrupted, they lost his medical care and his medications. So he rejected his second liver.
I see.
And he and his mom came to our Tuesday prayer service. And this is one of those where Dodie said, "You pray like a doctor and then I'll pray." And I laid my hand on his abdomen, and his liver was about the size of a slow-pitch softball.
Yeah.
And very hard. And so I prayed, and then Dodie prayed. That was at Tuesday noon. He got his new liver that night.
Wow, wow, that's awesome.
He was out of the
Praise
hospital by
God.
Friday.
Do me a favor, stay put right here. We're going to bring Chad back out.
Great.
I'm going to get the two of you talking to one another. Don't go anywhere, guys. We're going back with more of the three in just a minute. Hey, what do you think of when I ask about your health? Probably just your diet, weight, or a sickness. But health involves so much more than just the body. You also have a spirit and a mind that need nourishing, and the Healthy Living Handbook is going to do just that. It contains a top 10 list of healthy living habits for your spirit, where we'll discuss your prayer life, the Holy Spirit, things you may be substituting for God and not even know it. Then Section 2 contains a top 10 list for your mind. I'm going to help you get organized, deal with stress, help you laugh more, and never be discouraged again. There's even a relationship quiz there that helps you make sure the people in your life are the right ones. Then in Section 3, there's a top 10 list for your body. We'll study the 3 biggies, meat, wheat, and sweet, and other things like weight loss, water consumption, and there's even my essential oils list that tells you which oils help the top 50 common household ailments. Go to lauraharrissmith.com and get your copy of the Healthy Living Handbook today. What if there was a reset button for your body, mind, and spirit? There is! I wrote the 30-Day Faith Detox so you could cleanse your body, renew your mind, and heal your spirit. There are 30 daily devotionals to confront emotional residues from past trials, what I call faith toxins, prayers to refresh your spirit, and then through yummy strategic foods, each of your 15 body systems are cleansed for a total body detox. People are losing weight and gaining faith. Go to lauraharrissmith.com today to get your copy of the 30-Day Faith Detox. Hi everyone, welcome back to The Three. In my opener, my monologue at the beginning, I promised you a little bit of a story of something that happened to me. I've had so many miraculous encounters with God. I'm old enough and have been loving Him enough for long enough that I have seen Him do many things. But I just want to tell you about one time. A couple of years ago, I guess maybe 3 years ago, I took a freak fall into a glass and wrought iron table in my home. And I immediately knew something was wrong. Went to the ER, my rib had been broken, my lung had been punctured. They told me I had a pneumothorax and that my lung was collapsing. And I was in the middle of writing a book and I couldn't be on pain meds because I knew I would look back at chapter 5 forever and say it sounded terrible and nonsensical. So I refused the medication, and my family went somewhere one night. I believe that they were at church. It was like day 2 and I didn't feel well. And I got on my knees very carefully. I could not even hardly move, but I had to slowly, inching down the wall, get on my knees. It helps to go low sometimes. And I just said, you know, Jesus, you are my healer, and this is not what you promised me. And if you will heal me, I will put the story right here in chapter 5. And I stood up, and I noticed when I stood up that I felt a little different, and I went and stood in the mirror, and I was doing like this, and then I touched my toes, and I was like, I mean, no bells or whistles had gone off. There'd been any special, but I could tell that something was different in my body. And then my husband came home and I ran out in the living room. He was like, stop, 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 don't, you're gonna hurt something. I said, I need an x-ray. I've got to have another x-ray. And so we went in the next day for an x-ray, and it proved that the rib was no longer broken, the lung was no longer collapsing, and the doctor said to me these words. He said, your pneumothorax is healed.
Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah, and the before and after pictures flooded Facebook. It was really cool of the x-ray. But so that is, the reason I brought the two of you on is because I've heard miraculous stories from the both of you. More of yours are on the street, I will admit, you really go out and take those risks.
Yeah, but that's the easy place compared to being in the hospital.
True. You got people in the hospital.
Perspective.
Well, because you've got people there who have gone and they've put in their trust in a man's hands or whatever. But so I want you, Chad, before we're going to the break, just give us somebody listening who says, I want to take that risk. I want to step out and pray for someone. Do I really even believe this can happen? Mm-hmm. Talk to that person.
Yeah, I would say to that person that the best starting point is, if you are going to approach someone, to just ask them to share a bit of their story, like with yours.
True.
Like, hey, what if you see someone in a wheelchair or on crutches or with a brace or whatever, hey, what happened? Yeah. Anytime you say, hey, what happened, you've just taken a risk that 99.9% of the world will never take. And so once you've asked, then rapport begins to develop, and then you can say, hey, well, are you in pain right now? Like, yeah, and, I'm going to the doctor, and the doctor says I might need surgery, and you're understanding and trying to have compassion and enter into their experience. And then you can bring Jesus into it and say, well, I know this sounds funny, but can I just say a quick prayer for you? And that's it. And then all you do is, Jesus, thank you. The first time I prayed for someone, I think I said, Jesus, pretty please, you know, like if you can, if you really want to, like, and Jesus still healed. So it doesn't take much other than our little tiny step of obedience.
Yeah.
And you can tell if the motive is love.
Yeah.
You know, people are smart. If you go in with some agenda, like, honestly, Jesus didn't interview people, and like he saw needs and he met them.
Yeah.
And so that's really what I love about what you're doing.
Thanks.
So again, Chad's Living, give me the web address.
ChadIsLiving.com.
ChadIsLiving.com. You can get the book 1,000 Risks.
Yeah.
It's doing really well, a month old.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dr. Ken, I appreciate you being here. Our paths have crossed a couple of times since then, and I just appreciate the wealth of wisdom that you have brought, not just to, you know, our lives as friends, but I feel like you in the medical community, you must feel like you are a minority, because you go in there and, you know, you have a lot of intelligence that you're constantly surrounded with, and yet you're such a man of faith. Is that ever a polarity? Do you ever experience that?
Well, in my own life, I lived in two silos, and I had my Christianity, my marriage, my parenthood, and all that in one silo. And in the other silo, I had science and medicine and all that stuff. And there wasn't much connection. And that changed in the spring of 2001 when God called me to full-time ministry and then pointed out to me that I was already in a ministry, but I just hadn't called it that.
Yes,
I'd called it the practice of medicine instead of the ministry of medicine. And so now I'm involved with some Christian students at one of the medical schools in the Denver area, and I encourage them to recognize that they're called to be physicians because God wants Christian physicians to take care of his children.
Boy.
But but there's an agenda that God wants us to mature into, to do to have the kind of freedom that Chad's been talking about, and that is the freedom to be nudged by the Holy Spirit, and there's a need.
Yes, yes.
And
he
you're
sees
ready.
the need.
Yeah, totally.
We're the ones that don't see it.
Right.
But if we're
Exactly.
listening to him and we're just living life with our eyes wide open, and you see someone with a need, why wouldn't you want to take a risk and offer them help? What's the worst thing that can happen? You leave with a hug? You've encouraged them, you know. So.
Usually the worst thing that ever happens, at least in my context, is, sorry, I'm fine. Or like, no, maybe they're assuming I want something from them. And so, yeah.
And we do live in a skeptical society, but can I also say that a lot of that is because maybe we've done a poor job of representing, you know, the love of God. Well, guys, this has been such a treat. I could just talk all day long. We're going to leave, and these guys are going to pray for me because I am not letting them get away before they do. Thank you, everybody. Have a great. We're going to see you next time on theTHREE, and we're going to have good things for you because every time we're here, we deal with your body, your mind, and your spirit. We're taking care of you. Thanks, everybody.